Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for you guys. So today we're going to be taking a look at Adventure Tenyi, and as you can see by the little one next to Crossout Designator here, I am recording this video post ban list. However, these games actually came from, well, it's technically the first right now, so these games came from just yesterday when I was playing the last games before the ban list went into effect, but we were still playing the same Adventure Tenyi build that you see here that we were playing before, where we had already cut down to one Crossout Designator. So I actually, funnily enough, ended up having to rebuild this deck because after the ban list took effect, I just deleted every single one of my decks and wanted to build up from scratch, because I like to do that when I update decks anyway. I feel like it gives me a fresh perspective, and we're already going to see tomorrow's videos. We're going to show Swordsoul of Taia, spoiler alert, and we're going to show even more updates that I've done since the last video, so it's not even going to be the same build. We will see a new build and games from the new format moving forward. We're going to see some really good Adventure Tenyi games in today's video, though. I actually was just going to start from today with games from post-ban list, but we had some really good scenarios yesterday that are definitely still going to be obviously relevant post-ban list, as they're just good, going second scenarios, playing through a little bit of odd hands kind of scenarios. And I wanted to make sure that I showed some of those games off, because I definitely think that there is some value in seeing those. Plus, like I said, the build as you're seeing here is the build we were using before as well, so that will still be relevant as far as the build being legal for the current ban list. So Adventure Tenyi, yeah, is definitely a deck that I think is going to be doing very well post ban list. I think on my little tier list that I did, I had it as the top tier 2 deck, and I think that's probably still going to hold true. It was really awesome, honestly, to get all your guys' input on that video. By the way, you guys brought up some pretty good points, and I just, it's always better to evaluate things like that, honestly, in a more community consensus format, as opposed to just trying to come up with just yourself what you think, because the input of others is always going to contribute, perspectives or angles that you hadn't considered. So that's why I always push for just community-based learning, and your guys' awesome contributions in the comments, be it to deck suggestions, combo suggestions, just general play, what you think the state of the format is. I'm always open to hear that. I make that speech every video, but I feel like it's one that's worth making, because I feel like it's one that's worth repeating, honestly. So, but anyway, to get back to Adventure Tenyi specifically, yeah, like I said, even though we have a lot of games from the previous ban list, we're still using a post ban list build, and there were still some good scenarios. I've kind of been thinking of taking out not Protos, but here it is, Longyuan. I've kind of been thinking about taking out Longyuan and going down to an even 40 lately, because lately I've kind of been drifting back towards an even 40 with most of my builds, or I think I'm about to be heading more in that direction. I really value consistency, and the closer you can get to 40, the more consistent your deck is, right? Not just in its combos, but also going second. You can open Maxi and Ash and other disruption cards more consistently. So I did think about that for quite a while, because Longyuan is definitely the least necessary card in this deck. It's not just the least necessary, but it's also not super necessary just in general. But honestly, that said, there have been enough scenarios, and we'll see at least one, but I think even a couple here in these games coming up, where Longyuan just really comes in clutch and is able to, it's either able to provide insurance by summoning a Baron before you make your plays, or, provides a decent follow-up into either a Baron or a Chenging when your other plays have been disrupted. So I'm really borderline about Longyuan. It's very on the fence of whether or not I would want to cut this card or keep it moving forward, but I think for the time being I'm just going to continue to keep it, because again, I've just run into enough scenarios where it's coming clutch that I'm willing to keep trying it for a little bit longer. So okay, as always, let's go ahead and break down the deck list itself before we go ahead and take a look at some gameplay. So we are playing 2 Chiwen Light of the Zing, 1 Jet Synchron, 1 Tenyi Spirit Adhara, 3 Maxx, 2 Mecha Phantom Beasto Lion, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 Roxrose Dragon, 1 Roxrose Dragon, 2 Water Enchantress of the Temple, 1 Swordsoul of Taia, 1 Swordsoul Strategist Longyuan, 3 Tenyi Spirit Vishuda, 3 Tenyi Spirit Ashuna, 1 Wandering Gryphon Rider, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, and 1 Archnemesis Protos to round out the monsters. For spells, we have 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Swordsoul Emergence, 2 Rite of Aramesir, 1 Dracoback the Rideable Dragon, 1 Fateful Adventure, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 1 Basal Rose Shoot, and that's going to be it for spells. For the 2 trap cards, we are playing 1 Infinite Impermanence and 1 9 Pillars of the Zing. I should also say that I did also kind of think about taking the Crossout Designator out, just because, like, at 1 copy, you know, it doesn't pack as much of a punch as even 2, honestly. And to be honest, like yeah, we can hit C, Ash, Nibiru, and Imperm, but that's like kind of, I guess Call by as well. I don't want to say that's it, because, you know, a lot of the package that we're playing is used not only obviously in mirror matches, which are fairly common, but against Swordsoul Tenyi, which can be fairly common as well. So, like, I don't know, that's another card that I'm kind of borderline on, as far as like getting the deck down to 40 cards. But oh, and then down here for the extra deck, we have 1 Herald of the Arc Light, 1 Denglong, First of the Zing, 1 Yazi, Evil of the Zing, 1 Baxia, Brightness of the Zing, 1 Borreload, Savage Dragon, 1 Swordsoul Grandmaster Chi, 1 Chao Fang, Phantom of the Zing, 1 Baron de Fleur, 1 Swordsoul Supreme Sovereign Cheng Ying, 1 number 42 Galaxy Tomahawk, 1 Salmon Grey Almirage, 1 Monk of the Tenyi, 1 Crystron Halki Fibrax, 1 Barricade Borg Blocker, and then finally, of course, Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. Alright, so now that we're all caught up on what the deck list is, let us now go ahead and take a look at some games. So this first one is going to be against an Adventure Tri-Brigade deck, which I've been seeing a fair bit more of lately, likely due to the list that appeared from the top 10 Duelist Cup decks there, showing off that they played Adventure Tri-Brigade. I think it might have even been the same list now that I think about it, because I know it was playing the Lancias and the 1 Revolt. I think it might have just been the same list there. Not that there's, like, I don't know, I don't care if people net deck. That's not a concern of mine. I'm not like King Scarlet's posted a video about net decking today that got me rolling. Check out King Scarlet, by the way, if you know, you haven't yet, because he is extremely talented and deserves far more attention than he currently gets, in my opinion. But in any case here, I actually ashed a Tenyi, which I've said a lot in the past, like, you shouldn't do. But the reason I did it here was because I wasn't actually expecting this to be Adventure Tri-Brigade. I thought it was more likely to be Adventure just Zodiac. And I think Adventure Zodiac is probably still, even after, I don't know actually, if I'm just trying to figure out if, like, you know, after that Adventure Tri-Brigade deck, you know, was featured, like, are more people playing that than Adventure Zodiac right now? It's probably about the same, to be honest, but if they're playing Adventure Zodiac, then I do think it's right to ash a Tenyi here, so that way they don't add a Zodiac monster and then go into those plays. But obviously, if it's Tri-Brigade, you'd ideally want to wait for the Fractal there. So that's why I threw out the ash there. I just wanted to make that clear, because again, I know I said in the past that against Tri-Brigade, you shouldn't ash the Tenyi, but here I just wasn't 100% sure I was playing against Tri-Brigade, so decided to hedge a little bit and just ash the Tenyi, but ultimately they didn't have the Fractal anyway, so no big deal. They are going to have a Gryphon set up, but 1 negate against this deck is not something I'm hugely concerned about. This Lancia is going to be a little bit annoying here. That's why I'm just going to go ahead and call by the Crave It. So, yeah, I mean, obviously we're playing, you know, the Tenyi package, so that's going to affect... Actually, I'm trying to think, okay, what all does Lancia affect from the combo? Obviously, you can't summon Protos, so you wouldn't be able to banish the Ashuna either, and that gets you, what, one of the level 8s, so you either can get Chi or Chao Fang. So, okay, you'd still be able to do some of the combo, I think, though, if I recall correctly. But, yeah, here, obviously, we had the call by anyway. I'm going to use a Vishuda and target the token. Obviously, if that resolved, that would have been totally fine. But the opponent's just going to Gryphon Raider it, which is also totally fine. They only have 1 card in their hand, so it's not, like, super duper likely to be disruption. It's still something to be mindful of, but in any case, we'll still go for the Hulk here. I do also still have the Protos and the Emergence in my hand, so even if my opponent's last card just happened to be an out like a Nibiru or something, I definitely still have plays that I can make moving forward, which is another reason why I like having access to the Longyuan, is just being able to, again, actually I touched on this in the deck profile there, but having the ability to go into an alternate, just level 10 synchro, because Baron and or Cheng Ying, well, I guess not and or if you're just using the one Longyuan, but you know, Baron or Cheng Ying are both very, like, powerful standalone options, and here the opponent's actually going to have an Ash Blossom for the Auroradon effect, which is kind of going to leave you stranded with just the 4 tokens here, which is definitely a little bit awkward, but I'm just going to summon the Protos and call Earth. Hitting the Adventure token will definitely prevent them from you know, summoning another Adventure token that they might get off of a Rite, off of an Enchantress, off the Adventure, the Fateful Adventure, rather. So not only for that reason, but also because, again, they played a Tenyi, I think it's reasonably likely they're playing some out of Zodiac monsters, and if I call Earth here, they also will not be able to summon their Drydet as well, but looks like they just... did they just top deck their Gryphon Rider? I think they did, actually. Well, yeah, they would have had to have, because then they just searched this Water Enchantress. No, I'm sorry, they added the Gryphon Rider on top of the Water Enchantress, got it, so... either way, so they do put out the Gryphon Rider, which does pose a bit of an issue for me. I am ultimately going to call Wind, even though it gets rid of all my tokens, because there's not really anything I can do with them by themselves anyway. Like, I'm not playing Lake Spider to make plays in that manner, so... yeah, it's too bad we don't have another card in hand. Otherwise, we could have searched a Gryphon Rider and attacked for game here, but I'll still use a Fateful Adventure effect to set up another Water Enchantress in the graveyard before putting my opponent down to 1,000 life points there. Now, because I called Wind, they are going to be able to, of course, play the Rite of Aramesir, but then they won't be able to get their Gryphon Rider. Although we destroyed that, so they probably wouldn't be able to get that anyway. I was kind of more thinking of like the Tri-Brigade and the Zodiac, particularly the Zodiac side of things, because that's what I was thinking about in the moment, because I'm really just now realizing, actually, yeah, we never saw any Tri-Brigade cards specifically, so thinking in the frame of it being, Zodiac, calling Wind doesn't stop too much, but again, yeah, I think we just had to do it in that scenario, and it ultimately did end up panning out. So, alright, that's the first game. Let's go and take a look at the next one. So this next game is actually going to be against a Fluandrees player whose username is Orbmeister. Orbmeister, if you're out there, I love your name. It cracked me up when I played against you and I read it. It's I don't know why it just got to me. Orbmeister. I fucking love it. Anyway, so we're going to take the first turn here. I'm actually going to lead with the Fateful Adventure. And this is actually one of those hands where we have multiple different ways we could lead, right? We could lead with the Ashuna into the Monk, the Adhara, just go straight into the Hulk. We could lead with the Fateful Adventure. There's obviously... we have the options, kind of Roxrose Dragon, if we want to use that for a normal summon instead of Taia. Well, actually, that's the thing, right? So with this hand, because we open Taia, we're going to have to combo a little bit differently, because normally Taia does need to be in the deck. You have to, like, Yazi can only summon from deck, and you need to be able to pull the Taia. So, I will, however, end up leading with the Fateful Adventure. That's kind of one of the things about Adventure Tenyi, is that there's a lot of different lines you can do kind of from the get-go with the average hand, so it's sometimes not the easiest to know what to do with each specific hand, but I generally like to try to bait as much like disruption as possible before going for like whatever I decide my main line is going to be, usually a Hulk into an Auroradon, or like the Galaxy Tomahawk into an Auroradon. So I'm going to lead with the Fateful Adventure here and see if I can't bait out an Ash Blossom. Same with the Water Enchantress and the Rite of Aramesir. We can test for Maxx here as well before committing to a lot of summons, because the Tenyi monsters can special summon themselves even while, a non-effect monster is on the board. Definitely going to keep the Dracoback in my hand for now. Don't want to equip it because I want to be able to discard it later. So I want to special summon the Adhara and just go for the Hulk at this point. Again, I'm keeping my normal summon because if our line is successful, we're going to end up having to normal summon the Taia to complete it, because again, Yazi can only special summon from the deck. So unfortunately, we're not able to pull it from the hand. But again, we don't really have anything else besides maybe the Roxrose that we would want to normal summon anyway. It actually would have been nice to summon that, get the Basal Rose shoot, go for a synchro play, but no, definitely this main combo line is the way to go. Most of the time, I mean, it's in most like turn 1 scenarios especially, it's like, yeah, I've just had games where I've lost before because I tried to do something a little too fancy and it doesn't end up panning out, or ends up being like, worse than whatever inboard I could have normally gotten. So, yeah, I'm not saying you have to do it the same way like every single time. Definitely not, actually. It's definitely far better to be open-minded when thinking about potential plays in that regard. But that said, there's of course a sense of balance to all things like that, right? Perfectly balanced as all things are. That's the meme, isn't it? So here I'm going to go ahead and sync for 7. I'm going to go for the Yazi anyway, and use the Baron effect in order to be able to summon something out with the Yazi, but because it won't be the Taia, we won't be able to necessarily continue the combo as we normally would from here. I'm actually going to grab a Vishuda here to go with my Chiwen. Then we sync for 8. I think I'm trying to remember how, but I feel like there was a minor misplay. Like I could have made a slightly more optimal play here. No, I don't. Oh, I think I was just thinking that I should have discarded the Ashuna earlier. Was it earlier? I don't. Oh, no. I know what it was. It was the fact that I normal summoned Taia, even though I already used the Fateful Adventure. Right. So I actually wasn't able to use Taia's effect when normal summoning it. That's what it was. So that's why we had to grab the Longyuan there in order to get a Swordsoul token on the board, so that we could. Get everything set up that we needed to. So, I mean, we've got a pretty solid ending board here, right? The only thing that we're missing as a result is Protos. So, if you happen to normal summon Taia and you're wondering, like, what is a line I can do? There's a line that is perfectly able to put out again, everything from the usual ending board, except for the, well, not even everything, because we don't usually end with... Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is... I thought we were playing Swordsoul Tenyi for a second. No, this is, of course, Adventure Tenyi, as I realize as we activate the 9 pillars there. So, yeah, using the 9 pillars on the Chao Feng, I'm totally fine with here, because my opponent doesn't really have any light monsters to be cut off from summoning anyway, given that they're Flaunderies, and of course I am well aware that we're playing against Flaunderies now, so we will also negate the Gold Sarp with the Baron, preventing essentially a Robina search. And because we searched the Ash with the Chao Feng, which I was going to save for a Robina itself, we now get to negate this Pot of Prosperity. We still have, if I recall correctly, the Chi Shao negate up, so even if our opponent did have something like a Robina or even an Eagle to normal summon, we could have just negated it with that and stopped our opponent right in their tracks, so... Alright, at this point it's just more or less about assembling lethal onto the board. I'm going to grab this adventure token, search up a Gryphon Rider by discarding the Roxrose, and then we can summon that and go for a lethal push. Oh, of course we're gonna use the Ashuna effect first just to get the extra Vishuda body on board as well. Hitting first with Gryphon just in case I need to use the effect and it doesn't get to attack beforehand, but opponent doesn't seem to have anything, so we're just able to swing for lethal. So GG's Orbmeister. Once again, I love your name, and it was a good game. So alright, let's go ahead and go on to the next one. Alright, so this time we have the mirror match. Looks like the opponent is playing 44 cards. They're including I believe Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, and Droplets that we were not playing. So yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to going like a little bit above 40 cards to include more tech. I don't think that that's a bad thing to do at all. I just think for me personally, like I said in the profile, I very much value consistency, especially in a best of one format, since I mostly, well, not even mostly, I pretty much entirely just play on Rite's Ladder. So having consistency, again, for a best of one format is something that I greatly value. So we will have the Maxx here in response to our opponent's plays, so they're just going to stop after summoning the Chiwen, which pretty clearly telegraphs the 9 pillars, right? So I would lead with the Rite of Aramesir, and sure enough, here comes the 9 pillars. And if you look, we have plenty of other options in our hand. We could go for a Galaxy Tomahawk line, we could go for a Hulk line, we could just go for like a Love Light Synchro. We can do pretty much whatever we want with this hand. They will get to summon out a Gryphon Rider here, so that is a little bit less than ideal. However, I'm going to go ahead and use the Vishuda effect as special and then chain the Gryphon Rider. This works because both conditions are met at the same time of controlling either no monsters or no effect monsters, and they still both get to summon themselves. So I'm going to go for Mecha the Tenyi and use Vishuda once again to try to target the adventure token. You saw us do this earlier in the first game, actually. This is definitely one of the main uses of the Monk of the Tenyi, is to be able to bait some negation or like use Vishuda as a form of removal. Obviously, it can be used for other reasons too, like using Ashuna to be able to pull something from the deck that you needed. So yeah, as soon as we start to go into the Hulk line, the opponent just concedes at that point. So just again wanted to kind of point out that just some of those like interactions there, particularly with like the Vishuda and the Wanderer Gryphon Rider, because I feel like I've seen the comment before of like, how do you make Galaxy Tomahawk? How are you able to summon both of them? And it's again by chaining the Gryphon Rider to the Vishuda directly, because again, both effects are on the same chain link. Both effects conditions are met at the same time, because when both effects activate, there is no monster, or in Vishuda's case, no effect monster on the field. So they still both get to summon themselves because both conditions were still successfully met. They just were met at the same time. So they get summoned at the same time, or rather within the same chain link as well. So, all right, let's go and take a look at the next game. All right, playing against yet another mirror match here. This one also went a little bit above 40 cards, but it looks like this one is including more like combo pieces. like more Yang Zing and Swordsoul cards. So just always interesting. Like this deck, there's so many different ways you can build it and so many different takes on it. I'm really curious just looking at other people's builds. If you ever want to share your build or your replays for that matter, you can check out my description where you'll find a link to my Twitter, and you know, from there my pinned tweet is actually where, you know, I kind of curate responses for the viewer special videos where we feature replays from the viewers there. So I also love seeing deck lists there, not just to, you know, kind of go with the video, or with the replay rather for the video, but also I'm just fascinated looking at other people's builds kind of constantly. So yeah, definitely don't be shy about sharing those. Alright, so here it looks like we've got the adventure setup as well as a Baron setup. We're a little bit tight on space here just because of like the way I end up comboing, but that's ultimately going to be fine, because what we can just do is go into Baron, still have an Omni Negate up, and then go into the Galaxy Tomahawk. Gonna summon that to the main monster zone to summon 2 tokens, and then that way I can sack the Tomahawk and the tokens in order to just summon the Auroradon. This, of course, being the other way to go into Auroradon other than Hulk. Well, there's also technically Barricade Board blocker. If you've got a total of... You've got 3 different monsters, 2 of them have different names, and 1 of them is a machine. What you can do is link the 2 with different names into Barricade Borg, and then you can use your leftover machine monster to link into Auroradon, and then you have plays. So alright, yeah, just doing some more typical... Now we're doing some, like, more typical Halcdon stuff, I guess is what I meant to say. Even though our beginning was a little bit unconventional there. We kind of had to go into the Baron. Again, I wanted to keep an Omni Negate up as I was comboing this turn, so that's kind of why we played things out the way that they did. It's just always best to keep, like, an open mind when it comes to making play, especially with a deck like this, right? This deck is so... I don't want to just call it combo intensive, because it's not even necessarily just that, but it's like, it's not combo intensive that you have to memorize a lot of combos. You just kind of have to be able to think outside of the box and know the scope of what the deck is capable of, and in doing so, know what you need from the deck, because I feel like once that's the case, you can kind of start to play around stuff a lot more easily. Of course, it'll also give you an edge when playing against other adventure Tenyi players, so... Alright, here we're gonna get our, looks like our send and then search. And then, yep, imagine this is us spinning. Oh no, I'm sorry, that Chinging is a... Sorry, I thought that Chinging was on the opponent's board, not on ours. No, it is ours, rather, so... yeah, I'm not used to having Chinging out on turn 1, because normally you just make Baron instead, but... here, like I said, of course, earlier we were able to make the Baron first, and we can definitely use Protos, or you rather use the Emergence to summon the Protos, and then set. So this is definitely a turn 1 board that we love to see. This is like a full turn 1 board, including the Changing, which is enough to get our opponent to concede. So I wanted to throw this game out to kind of show how, like, even what seemed like an unconventional start led to an above average board. And again, that's one of the things that I appreciate about this deck so much, is if that you are willing to spend the time with it and really learn it. You can sometimes find some pretty surprising plays, like surprisingly how good they are. Or I don't know, maybe sometimes I've messed up plays and been like, wow, this play would end up way worse than it could have been. But you know, c'est la vie, so it goes. Alright, we've got, yeah, one more game. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Alright, so this last game is against Eldritch, and quite eager to show this one off. This is a going second against Eldritch game that actually turned out fairly well for us here. Alright, so we open with the Maxx, which, you know, normally I'm like, okay, opening Maxx, we like to see it. And then the opponent activates the Elixir of Black Awakening. I was like, okay, well, this is the only draw I'm going to get off this Maxx. But you know what? At the very least, I did, you know, manage to cycle the C away. So, yep, here comes good old Eldritch, good old Golden Boy. Alright, so looking at my hand here, I've got a really interesting hand in this case, right? So, okay, I know obviously in the replay, like, you know, the stuff happens like instantaneously, but in real time when I was playing this game, I kind of thought long and hard about what exactly I wanted to activate first and like what general order I wanted to, you know, try to play everything in. So I figured trying the adventure line was the best way to begin, and then if that didn't work, we'd move on into more like, I guess kind of like quote-unquote traditional Swordsoul Tenyi kind of style plays, given that we have like the Longyuan and the Protos. But that's the problem too, is that like the Protos is the only thing I can use to summon the Longyuan, so I kind of have to make that choice as well. So but yeah, we end up leading with the adventure line here, like I said, activating the Fateful Adventure. Our opponent's gonna flip up Goldland Forever. This is perfect. This is actually literally exactly the response I wanted to see here. Because I'm fairly confident that I can get rid of that Elder Lich, even though it's in the graveyard. Basically, my plan is to kind of just go for Changing, and then I'll end up banishing the Baron out of the graveyard, or not the Baron, the instead of Baron rather, I'll go for Changing, and then I'll banish the Elder Lich rather out of the graveyard. Of course, going to do that a little bit later. So here I grab the token, right? Because I want to get the Fateful Adventure and use the Dracoback to bounce one of the cards, one of my opponent's back row. And I was going to do it blindly, but the opponent actually flipped up Summon Limit here, which made my life a lot easier, because now I can equip it to the token and just bounce that Summon Limit back to the hand. Remember, the Dracoback only has to be equipped to a non-effect monster, so you can equip it to you know, your other tokens, you can equip it to like Mecha the Tenyi, you know, it's not too hard to play sometimes, or even like a Swordsoul token, right? In the right scenario. So, like I said, I'm gonna go for Changing here because I think that card will go. Even though I did still have like a bunch of stuff, including, of course, oh no, I didn't have Baron left. I'm sorry, I thought I had Baron still in the extra deck. No, I must have. Yeah, I used her already. So. That was our only option for level 10, that is true, but I think in this scenario, even if I'd had Baron I don't know, if I'd had Baron in the extra deck, I might have just picked the Changing anyway, but, it's funny though, yeah, the opponent actually kind of ended up doing themselves then by, banishing, what was it, yeah, banishing their, Huaquiero in order to try to search, because that just caused me to end up banishing the Eldritch there, as well as, the other cards. So they're gonna flip up Gozen and call Water. I searched the Water Enchantress here, but I actually didn't even think about really summoning her. I was just gonna kind of use her as more of like a resource, but yeah. So because I'm able to do that, I'm able to banish one of the back rows there with the Changing, because I was able to you know, use the Water Enchantress in that way. Which I didn't even think about when I was searching her. Like I said, I really did more have in mind of like summoning her and doing some more extra damage, but no, ultimately decided to see if I had anything that I wanted to respond to first by attacking, and then when nothing came up after battling, then that's when we kind of decided to just, you know, banish the Water Enchantress to kind of start attacking the enemy's back row and graveyard, which worked, as you can see, to pretty good success here. So, all right. That is everything I've got for, yeah, that's everything I got for this video duel-wise. Let's go ahead and move on to the outro. Okay, everybody, I want to thank you so very much for watching, especially all the way to the very end like this. That does mean a whole lot to me, not only personally, but as a means of supporting the channel. Also appreciative to those of you who are commenting and subscribing. Again, not just you know, good for the channel, but good for my heart as well. I love seeing you all just like talk in the comments about, you know, just the plays that can be made, or like ways that the deck can be built, and like you know, because I try to chime in with responses, answering questions every now and then, like when I can, when I have, you know, a little bit of extra time to sit down and reply to some comments. But I see you guys responding to each other a lot too, and they're just really, I'm so ecstatic for that. Like, just again, community-based learning has always been a big thing for me. So just the idea that we're helping each other out there, I mean, as always as ever, I think is a fantastic thing. So yeah, that's about all I've got for this one. So without further ado, this is Xlex signing out. Hope you guys have a fantastic day.